Hello, YouTubers. M.A. Fatah with Elite Stars and a Million Stars of Self-Empowerment wanted to discuss Chapter 4 of Elite Stars of Ramadan, Memoirs of a Hafiz. And I think this is really where the Memoirs of the Hafiz and the Elite Stars of Ramadan kind of merge together, so to speak. The title of this particular chapter in itself says just about that. Memories of Reality. That is the name of this chapter. And basically what this chapter is saying is how I gained inspiration in learning how to read the Quran. How I gained inspiration in the technicalities of the literature itself. What type of resources I utilized back then when I was, a Quranic student and trying to learn how to read a foreign language to me at the time. What was that all about? So again, the memoirs of a Hafiz actually play into it. But something else that actually does come about, as I mentioned, is the technicalities of the aspect. So I actually go technically into the basics of learning and picking up how to, distinguish letters and what was some of the tactics used aside from just, learning how to memorize the alphabets, but also writing them and what took place in terms of feelings and thoughts and ideas once, gaining each day a little bit more forward or further into the basics, and then from the basics into an intermediary phase of reading the book of the Quran, the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So anyone who reads this chapter can expect to get somewhat of a continuation from chapter 3 in terms of how I connected myself with the Quran and with those whom what are considered people of the Quran, like Prophet ﷺ and his blessed companions, but also more technical in terms of the makeup of the language, the Arabic language or the language of the Quran itself. I point out there also that it's not just the fact that you're learning how to memorize words, but it's also the fact that you are actually learning a completely different language. Like in my case, that's what I was doing. And then it goes, into a different sector, so to speak, when you take it from learning just the Arabic alphabet to learning the vowels, and then learning a double vowel, and then learning a silent vowel, and so forth and so on, until you get to a point where this silent vowel and this double vowel have brought a whole new concept of Quranic studies, which is tajweed, or learning how to recite the Quran as it was revealed. So these are the type of things that are outlined in chapter 4 of Elite Stars of Ramadan. When I was writing this, just to share the story, I got a little sidetracked. I wondered, how all of this actually would come out to assimilate, to be part of the bigger picture of the book itself. And once I was done with it, I had to evaluate that thought process one more time, and then it came to me that this would actually be a very informative chapter for anyone who is considering reading more Quran, or beginning to learn how to read the Quran, any beginner or intermediate level of Quran. And then of course the next chapter where it talks about Hafiz tactics, chapter 5, that is where I actually discuss certain tactics that are used in order to memorize the Quran. But before that, I give an overview of what the pages look like, and like how many lines are on each page between Surah Baqarah all the way to the last Juz, and so on, so forth and so on. But really what I wanted to let everybody know is that these last 3 chapters of the book happen to deal with, you know, learning how to read the Quran, learning how to memorize the Quran, learning how to keep the Quran. And as I mentioned earlier, chapter 3 discusses the people of the Quran, which again, you know, in terms of memorizing, my concept is really about this developing a relationship with the Quran before even starting, you know, the long-term process of memorizing it, because that's a life process there. But visit us on Facebook, as well as a million stars of self-empowerment.com. Like us right here, and throw any comments that you deem necessary. As this is the last 10 days, actually last several days, not 10. We don't have 10 days left of the Ramadan. I wish everybody a Ramadan Mubarak, blessed Ramadan. May Allah accept it from us. Thank you very much for giving me the time. Wassalam.